In recent times, there has been a huge influx of investors in the Indian market, like especially addressing like the boom that we saw during COVID. If you want to touch upon that bit, like how did that change the whole Indian capital markets?
So, in essence, what happened is after COVID happened, it was like a big shock to everybody. You know, when COVID happened, nobody in any part of the world knew how all of this works. The last pandemic that happened was probably 100 years ago during the Spanish flu.
Correct.
So this was a new situation for everybody. Now, in terms of sort of the global uncertainties or any of those issues are related, I think the world really realized that they are heavily dependent on China. So any product that you use today, anything, something or the other had something to do with China. And when COVID happened, when this realization came, which is when there was a need for China plus one. The plus one being another large growing economy which has a huge labor force, which has the potential to provide that kind of output in terms of supply chain all over the world. So that's where India really, firmed its position, which was being the China plus one. So slowly the muck out of China started moving into India. I would say muck because one sector, for everything there was a substitute now. What was happening in China started happening in India. So COVID really, helped India in that sense, I would say, where the world realized how much they need India for that matter. And the economic boom after that, like in terms of the manufacturing potential of the country, has been phenomenal. Additionally, what supported all of this was access to capital. So in the past, if SME, MSME for that matter, had to raise capital, there was only one way. You go to the bank, you provide some collateral, you get a loan, you get your working capital facilities. This was the only way that SMEs or MSMEs would raise capital in the past, and that also was pretty difficult. Indian banking has not always been very smooth in terms of providing that kind of capital. So the access to capital, more so after COVID, increased quite a bit with an influx of investors from the other parts of the world, whether those are funds, whether those are sovereign funds, whether those are any kind of hedge funds for that matter. People started entering Indian markets, and that really gave a rise to sort of Indian capital markets as well. If you see in terms of statistics, in India in January 2021, 3 years back if we go, January 2021, the SIP, a total SIP per month in India was around 8,500 crores. Fast forward to March 2024, we're looking at about 19,500 to 20,000 crores in SIP every month. So, and that's just in a span of 3 years. So that pretty much tells you, how much participation has increased in capital markets, how people are starting to believe more and more in Indian markets and in Indian equity markets. And this entire theme which played out, which was the China plus one theme, has really helped India in that sense. At the end of the day, before I conclude on this point, at the end of the day, I mean, SMEs or MSMEs, these small businesses are the backbone of the country. So these small companies coming out of, all parts of the country are really going to be essential in achieving that 7 trillion, 6 trillion, 7 trillion figure that Sir mentioned. SMEs contribute about 30% GVA to GDP. So GVA is gross value added to the GDP of India. So 30% of the contribution to the GDP comes from SMEs, which is why it is, these small businesses are really going to play a big pivotal part in sort of reshaping the economy and taking it to a different height.